fun show. I
Yeah.
liked it.
How you been? You guys doing all right? You were you and Kev last night. How'd everything go with that?
It was the Jaded Vets Hour, as we called it. It was good. I wasn't as big a fan of last night's show. As Kev agreed with me in some places, he enjoyed a few things more than I did, but we both really hit the um, kind of the same kind of feelings with that golden age and the Bowie and whatnot and kind of the flubs. But it was good. It was fun. It's good to be on with Kevin and not talk Dead and Co. It was, I think, our first time doing PHiSH together alone. So it
In a
was fun.
long time, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what'd you think about tonight? How do you think it compared to last night? I'm curious what your overall take of tonight is.
I thought tonight's show was in my kind of wheelhouse. Like it came out rocking. It kind of kept that rocking vibe going right on through to the encore with the Frankenstein, which between that and the good times, bad times already in this one and the Isabella, like we're getting some fucking fantastic covers, old covers in the encores. But overall, I really liked it. Like I like when the jams are a little bit different and when it's a little bit more rockin' of a show. And I thought tonight was a pretty rockin' show. And that's sort of what I like. As you know, I kind of like to have my face a little melted with the rock and the lights and that kind of thing. So, I mean, you start with a possum and you get white lights in the first song. It's always a good thing, right?
I
Like,
think that's a great way to start a set and a show. To be honest, it's instant energy, instant hype, and everybody's dancing and moving their asses, and I think
and,
that's a really great way.
and it's interesting because it's the third one of tour, and the other two, the one in Syracuse closed the second set, and then the other one in Georgia was the encore. So they were both back into possums, and tonight was like an opening possum. So it's like we talk about with first two and stuff. Like, where do you like it? Opening the second set, closing the second set, encore. It fits everywhere, but I think it's kind of fun to kick off a show with it. It kind of sets that mood.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not my favorite spot for it. I really like it out of the ballad or out of the breather because it
Mm-hmm.
builds things back up again. But I think it worked really well tonight. Kind of a standard first couple of songs. Nothing like reinventing wise, but I thought the Gaiuti was fairly clean. There was a couple of spots that were a little bit slop, but all things considered, I think it was a pretty clean version of it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you get these days with a Gaiuti because it's not played enough for him to really have some of those finger moments down with the guitar, even though he lives with the guitar on his shoulder. Like, I'm surprised he doesn't practice it a little more. But I love Gaiuti so much that you're obviously never gonna get the old 96 versions or 97 like, so you take what you can get, and I always love it. It's such a great song. It's like such a story, right? But it's a story told with the music, not necessarily the lyrics, which I love. It's like a symphony in that feel that it like takes you through this musical story with the lyrics kind of the beginning and the end, and then in the middle is the musical story. It's just I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, really brilliant composition and musically. I mean, it's one of those songs kind of I think I forget how brilliant the composition is because, the peak and the lyrics and everything, but it just as far as a written composition, really brilliant.
It's awesome.
Another Axilla part 2 after that, which was a ton of fun. Uh the, there was a lot of Crotocam. I've been meaning to say this all tour, and I haven't remembered to bring it up, but the camera work this tour is phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
and especially in MSG, it's very cinematic with the, like the ESPN Monday Night Football cam or whatever you call that.
The sky cam.
The
Yeah.
sky cam, yeah, and in Axel in particular, I was like, man, these lights look insane.
It is
Very
cool, the
solid.
sky cam, how he gets it up there when the lights are kind of going below it and the ones that are kind of like right in front of it. It does give you a really cool perspective and a cool effect with that. And Axel, I just don't understand how Kev isn't a fan of it. It's such a rockin' tune. Like, it just gets you going. And coming in the 3 slot after Possum and Coyote, it was in such a cool. It was just, again, those first 3 songs right out of the gate were just like, yes, like, rock on. I love it.
I mean, they really kept the energy up, and which was perfect to go right into energy.
It was right, like, definitely.
That was a llama transition right there. Um, it's weird because I don't want to harp on it too much, but the guitar solo was really weird and not great to start. Like, he flubbed to go in, and I feel like he was doing that old adage where like, oh, if you mess up once, it's a mistake. If you mess up twice, it's jazz, right? So he like tried it again, but it sounded just as bad. So then he did it a third time, and he kept hitting the wrong note, and it was like, Trey, just give up. But eventually, it locked into a really cool, like intricate jam with some cool interplay. And I think this was, you know, ultimately a nice jam. It was just the entry was a little bit fucked up, to be honest.
Yeah, and I thought, to me, this song just it reminds me of like a song from the '60s. It could almost be like a Sly and the Family Stone cover. I always feel like just the way the lyrics are, and then kind of the funky beat with the jam and stuff. It's a fun song. I don't think it gets played enough, in my opinion. Like it doesn't really hit the rotation enough. So to your point, I don't think it gets practiced enough and played enough to really have it down as well as you'd like sometimes. Kind of like the Coyote, like it's kind of. So, but I thought it definitely, it was the first song that had sort of the jam, right, of the night, like, because the other two, you get what you get with those kind of things. And I thought this was the first one that sort of kicked off a jam, which then led into the Meatstick jam, which was pretty good.
That segue was absolutely insane. I was just like, I can't. You realize instantly. I just wanted to point out came to play. That's funny because that was exactly what I was thinking the entire time. Because Energy was a big 2013 song, but that was his whole attitude then too. So I was thinking that exact same thing. That segue in the Meatstick, it's like you recognize it instantly, and like, but then like I question myself, I was like, is it really? And I was like, yes, I was so pumped when they made that transition. It was Pages really leading it with on the keys. It was fucking awesome.
That's what was cool, is he kind of had a moment of that transition by himself, and you were kind of like, is that what I think? Are we going into it? And then it really laid the floor down, and we are like, yeah, all right, we're going into it. And it was cool.
It felt like there was room, like meat left on the bone on the Energy jam. So I wasn't sure for a second if it was going to end up being Page teasing Meatstick in the middle of an Energy jam, or if the rest of the band was going to follow suit with them, and they did. And I'm glad they did, because it was fucking great.
Yeah, and I thought Page kind of had a lot in that song. Like he had a lot in the jam, and he had a lot towards the end of the jam. And I really thought he was like kind of carrying his sound in a lot of that song tonight. Like it was really cool. And that the noises he was making with it were really cool. It was like, it was fun. And it was fun to see it get jammed out. Like it's such a ridiculous song for what it is and everything, that, sometimes it's fun to like get it a little more to it. So it gets a little bit out of just that ridiculous zone.
Yeah. I mean, did you see that thing on socials? I saw it on Insta and on Twitter, where they're like describing the difference between the Grateful Dead and PHiSH as like two things you love but are completely different, right? Like Grateful Dead is like a blanket on a cool night or whatever, and PHiSH is like doing face drugs. That's not exactly what it was, but it was like a different type. That's the way, to me. It's like Grateful Dead is like Fire in the Mountain, and PHiSH is like Meatstick. It's just a ridiculous, it's like almost the same thing, but a completely different, absurd, ridiculous.
Well, I know we always talk about that, how like you can't compare the lyrics because they're completely right. Like until 3.0, 4.0, when like the writing's gotten a little bit more serious, so to speak, and you're not, doing all these crazy. But yeah, it's a funny comparison. But you can't argue with the jam sometimes, regardless of the lyrics and how ridiculous they can be. The jamming is still so spot on in points. Like
it was a cool jam too for that Meatstick. Speaking of lyrics, I found it kind of odd that he nailed the Japanese lyrics of Meatstick perfectly, and yet fucks up the lyrics on like every other song. And it's like, dude, how do you got the Japanese lyrics down so? And he looked so proud. He was just like, yeah, I nailed those Japanese lyrics.
Every time, like they feel so like proud of them, like forgetting it. It's so funny. Like, yeah, I know it is. It's hilarious to see. It's great.
Well, the only thing that was better than the segue into Meatstick was the segue out of Meatstick into It's Ice. Was another just phenomenal segue. I really liked this version of It's Ice that had I'm calling it the timber drums. It's not really, it's just a tom groove, like a groove on the toms, but that kind of reminded me of timber. But it really set up a nice jam. And then of course you had your teases there, Frankenstein, little foreshadowing.
Yep. Yeah, and I thought it's funny because the last time they played It's Ice was in North Carolina, and they played Blaze On after it. And what's funny about that is the last time they played Coyote, which was in Madison Square Garden in 12/29/22, they played Possum after it. So this time they flipped into Possum first and Coyote, but then they did this It's Ice and Blaze On again. So there was a couple of these like repeat, like sort of the way songs fit together, so to speak, in set lists. And this was
Yeah.
another kind of example of that in this first set, with two different times them kind of playing off of each other with those same songs. And I thought the It's Ice jam was just, again, it was so cool. Like it could have gone on longer, like
Yeah.
you kind of, it's one of those that you
You
kind
want
of
a little
wish
more
did.
out of it.
Right. You kind of want it to go a little bit longer and give you a little bit more, but the re-entry was great into it again, which it's one of those songs that has a great re-entry when they nail it. And tonight was a really good re-entry back into it. And then, it kind of set up the Blaze On. So
I'll be honest. I was initially a little bit disappointed when they went to Blaze On, because it wasn't really on the same vibe for me as the rest of the set. It seemed at the time when they first went into it like an odd choice. But I did end up really liking where they went with the jam. It was like a little more blissful type 2 jam, and then they brought back that. I always end up focusing on the groove, but like PHiSH ended up bringing back that tom groove that he was playing around with earlier, and it ended up being a very cool jam and an appropriate way to end the set. So I mean, it's hard to say a song doesn't fit, because they could take these songs anywhere. They're not one size fit all, so I
and
think
it's
it worked.
funny though, because we're used to Blaze On being again a little longer. So a 12-minute Blaze On at the end of the set was kind of compacted, even though you got that nice jam in it. It could have been 15, 17 minutes there, you know what I mean? And kind of expanded. Like I feel like we haven't gotten those Blaze Ons that we were getting used to getting the last
Right.
couple years, like when we were getting these long, which kind of turned that song into a jam vehicle. We're like, oh, I don't mind it as much, because once you turn the corner and get into the jam, it jams. But we haven't like really taken it for a walk like we did for a while there. So I understand your point with kind of that as the closer was kind of
Yeah, a little weak.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. After
But
that
it
rockin'
worked.
set, it
Right.
worked. It worked.
All right. Well, that brings us into the set break. We'll do a little housekeeping. We got Taper's Choice tomorrow. You and Llama are going to be interviewing. Who's coming? Do you know who's coming in? CT and Alex, or
CT and Alex for sure. Maybe Dave, maybe Zach. There might be a sighting of both of them.
nice?
They weren't totally confirmed, but the other two were definitely confirmed. In fact, let me just play this. So make sure to join us tomorrow night. Me and Llama. It'll be a fun interview and set up Choice Fest this weekend. So
I
yeah.
love special presentations. It's my
Me
new
too.
thing. It's the best. And then tonight is the last night for the footy kit. So if you want to be entered to win a footy kit, comment live in the chat and subscribe. You have to be a subscriber, and that'll give you one entry. And then if you're a member, you automatically get a second entry. So you could join and become a member of the Wook crew, and we'll draw them this weekend, T, and we'll announce the winner. And then if you're at Dick's, we'll give it to you in person, and if you're not at Dick's, we'll mail it to you. So do that. It's a pretty sweet kit. I legit had the thought earlier. I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear my kit tonight. I was like, T's probably gonna wear his, and I was like, I don't want to be I don't want to be like a buddy cop movie. So I'm glad that actually panned out exactly as I expected it would.
Well, we got the Beanie Bros going on tonight as it is, so we didn't need to go kits as well. But I figured I'd wear it since we got a Howling tonight, and it's the last night I'm on before the drawing, so I figured I'd model it and whatever.
Oh,
so,
I can't wait to talk to you about the Howling. There was some crazy shit going on there, but let's not jump around. Let's stay focused.
Yep. Stay on track.
Yeah, so kicking off a set with a slow, funky island tour Cavern. Fucking, it's gonna be a fun night and a fun set when they start off that way.
Totally. It felt like the Bob Weir version, slowing it down a little bit and singing it a little differently. But I loved it. Like if they're gonna, after 40 years, if you want to fuck around and change up songs and do some different things and try and make it work, I'm all for it. Sometimes it works better than other times. I'm still not a big fan of the slow maze, but I was a big fan of this Cavern. I thought this one kind of nailed it. Mike's bass line was fantastic through it. Trey cracking up at the end, trying to like slow down the lyrics running through it. Couldn't quite get it, but it was funny and it was fun. Like hats off to him for being creative and playing without a net and trying it and doing it. And, you know, if you're going to do it on your home court, because you're a lot more likely to get the response from the crowd anyway and that energy. And I think it was a smart play and it was fun. And why not?
I think Wednesday night at MSG is probably the safest night that, you know, like the safest performance that they could possibly have. Everybody was gonna eat up whatever the fuck they did, and it worked. I mean, it paid off. I was thinking about that the other night with the theme from the bottom, and like how there was a lot of people that were like angry almost that like they were like changing it up and like playing with it and stuff, and like the slow maze one was one, and like, you know what, it's fine if you don't like it and you don't want them to keep doing it, but the idea to me, in my opinion, to be a PHiSH fan and get upset when they try new things is kind of like a ridiculous notion, because that's what I love about the band is the fact that every time I hear, for example, we just talked about Blaze On, that it's different, right? That they manipulated, that they try things, and that I'm not just listening to like album recordings. And I really appreciate when they do, like when they go really into it and do something like they did with this Cavern. I think they nailed it. I think it was so much fun.
I
And
agree.
then,
Like
okay,
we bitch when they don't do things, and then we bitch when they do things. And, you know, it's just,
we just like to bitch about
you
things.
just like to bitch about whatever. And, you know, everyone's got an opinion about like, oh no, that was the greatest show, or no, this is the greatest show. It's just, it's however it strikes you personally, or like how you feel about it. And to me, overall, them trying it and having fun with it, again, as long as they're having fun and they're doing different things and keeping themselves creative and in the zone, fucking go for it. Right? Like,
Yeah.
do it.
Another sweet transition out of
Yeah.
Cavern into Carini. That was really cool. And the funk from the Cavern somewhat carried into the Carini. They eventually got away from it and went to like a more mellow vibe that like built up. But the fact that it started a little slower and had that funk in the Carini, I think, set up another cool jam. And that's the nice thing about the variety is it gives things that are new to them and us, that and different opportunities, right? There's different possibilities that just kind of organically grow out of those situations.
Totally. So, I mean, was it as good as the man Carini? Not on the same level, right? Like, I wouldn't
No,
put it there. Like, that was a baller Carini. But tonight's was different. It, to your point, it had different elements in it, and it was something new that you haven't heard really before. And having that kind of funk slow breakdown after that first verse got through, and like bringing it down and slowing it down like that was really interesting to me, because like Carini's such a darker jam, you know, like you never know really where you're going to get with it. And so to throw that in there, and I thought, okay, that's really kind of a cool, different thing to do. And then bring it back and kind of, you know, the lumpy head part was hilarious, going back and forth with like, screaming the lumpy head and getting into it. And then bringing into, you know, coming back into what Carini usually is with that jam and stuff. It was really cool. I liked it.
and they weren't done there, because then Trey did that Angels We Have Heard on High solo, the what is it, Gloria and Excelsis Deo. They go
Mm-hmm.
da, 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 da. Like, but he
Yep.
was like playing, I mean, it's not exactly like that, but he was playing that, and it gave it like this lofty kind of soaring glorious feel to, but over a darker Carini jam. And I think even right into the end of that jam going into Piper, I just thought was a very cool uh Carini. And you're right, it's not a man Carini. It's nowhere near even the best Carini at MSG, but it doesn't matter. It was fun, it was unique, and it worked really well tonight. And I mean, it was awesome.
It was
Uh
awesome, and it set up that, you know, you got your synth bed in it, you got a little bit of other things in it anyway, and then it set up that tailing off end of it that then led into the beginning of Piper, which you could kind of hear it coming, you know, and it kind of slowed, and then again, that's about it. I think this is the slowest build of Piper we're gonna get type Piper there, you know, and again, he
it
just kind of got right into it and started singing it, and then it had sort of a cool start stop jam in it and a cool breakdown. It never quite ripped like some Pipers do, and kind of like where you want a Piper to go sometimes, but it was okay, and it was only 8 minutes, right? Like an 8 minute Piper is very compact. Like you're not getting a
well, they cut off the slow build, so I mean that saves you three
so
minutes.
so that's 3 minutes right there. And then when you don't jam it out or get the in, there's your other 5, 6, 7 minutes of it. So yeah, exactly. So 8 minutes was an interesting, after a 17-minute Carini, to go into like a slower, fast, compacted Piper was interesting. And then we got, you know, the best, I think the funnest part of the second set with the next two songs, which we had been discussing. what were they going to do with the well? Like, where would that appear in darkness, or like where would that appear in some of the
Wait,
other
I
jams or like
want to
things?
comment on Piper though, real
Sure.
quick, because I think there was a lot of potential there that they glossed over, kind of like you glossing over it now. Uh, that start
Exactly.
stop that start stop jam. They did it like once or twice, and I guess he decided like I'm not fucking dealing with your woos. So then they closed it, and then Fish brought it into a halftime groove out of it, and if they had just stayed in that halftime groove and gone there, it could have been the best jam of the night. But they did it for one bar and we're out. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I was just so excited when I heard it. I was like, this is it. And then before you could even say it, it was gone. Now to the well. I always forget that I like this song when it starts because I really don't like the beginning of that song.
And the lyrics, it looks like the way it starts, but I think that's what's so cool about it is that turn, that sort of Jekyll and Hyde of it. Like, it starts so happy and like, oh, it's another one of those like love is fantastic and oh songs, you know, and then all of a sudden it hits that turn and you're like, oh yeah, now all of a sudden we're hitting evil and like, oh shit, we're going down the well. And it's just, I think that's what makes it so unique is that sort of that turn that happens in it. It's like one of the few songs that really have that flip the switch and it gets dark real quick and it's
Real
awesome.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that whole egg in a hole style dark
Hmm.
jam. I've been waiting for them to really explore it further and take it out a little bit more than they have. But I think this transition into the howling is oh, this guy. What the fuck is going on with the? I'm gonna block this guy real quick. I don't know who he is, but it's fucking distracting me, like selling drugs on our fucking chat. uh, yeah, I thought the transition into the Howling was cool, and I was really pumped when they got into that. Was that a sample of Howling, or was the entire venue just going batshit crazy? It was hard to tell on the stream. It looked like Fish was hitting a sample, but the Howling in the mic in my phones was just fucking so intense. It was hard to even hear the jam because it's just nonstop howling.
Howling, yeah, I don't know what it was. I liked, I to your point though with the transition or like the way they did it, like Trey looks so, it was one of those moments kind of like back at the Man when they were going to drop in the mics from the Boogie on. He was so excited to do it and was like talking in the mic and you could see him like kind of directing again, sort of like
Hmm.
we'll do the well, do the verse one more time, and then I want to like kind of stop it and go into the Howling. And he was so excited to get into the Howling and have that little funk beat and that like little dance move and stuff. And then Fishman still getting to scream the well during the Howling. Like that's what we were talking about.
That
Like
was
it fits
cool.
so well in there, you know, like so well with the well, but it really did fit nicely with that song and getting into it. And the Howling is just such a fun, it's a fun tune. Like it's such a boogie down, funky, fun song, and it has room to jam. I like where it goes with it. And again, compact 7 minutes, so you weren't getting too far with it. But on top of coming out of the well with 9 minutes, it was a good almost 20 minutes of fun funk jam in those two songs. So it was really cool. They worked really well together.
They really have that groove locked in too. That like 16th swing, like the fast swing funk. Um,
Hmm.
there was, I think the noise. There was some high pitched howling thing that was like kind of distracting me, from it. But if I could just not be a grumpy old man and put that aside, the actual playing and the music of it, I thought was phenomenal. And I'm sure if I was there in person, I would love the like the actual like people howling. Like I would be all. I remember I saw it at Deer Creek. I don't remember which year it was, last year or the year before, and it was a part like it was the whole lot afterwards for like hours after the show. Everybody was howling and like it was a blast. But coming through the webcast, it was a little annoying as fuck.
Well, I'll tell you, you sound like Tweezer was sitting on the couch with me, and Piper was laying down. I was like itching her belly, and Tweezer was just kind of laying there. And every time they'd howl, he'd sit up. It was like something like, "What am I hearing with this howl?" I was like, "It's on the TV. It's all right, bud. Like it's cool." But it was funny because it was affecting him and that howl. It was just really funny to see. He did it last time they played it too. Whenever they hit that howl, he like sits up and was like, "Is something happening that I should be aware of?" I'm like, "It's just a song, bud. Just sit down." So.
Everything's okay. Uh, And then we got another nice segue into taste. I
Hmm.
don't know if this was just a coincidence or if it was on their mind, but the Baker's Taste was on 8-3 or 8-2, the anniversary. What was that? 6 years ago. Was another pretty nice version of Taste. Absolutely, I always love getting a nice taste. I think that's a song that they don't play enough, in my opinion. It's just great. Um, it was a little sloppy at the end, though. There's a
It was a
little
little
bit of
sloppy at the end, yeah, but
yeah,
I
a
thought it
little
was an appropriate placement for it to start with. I thought it worked well where they put it tonight. I thought that was a good spot for it. I liked it. Like it kind of fit really nicely as that in between song after those 4, 5 songs, and then going into the About to Run after it. But I liked it. And to your point, it doesn't get played enough. It's one of those songs that I don't know. I like it, and I wish they would kind of throw it in the sets in more places and work it in a little bit more at times. Like it just doesn't get its fair share a lot. And it's a great song to sort of slow down and sort of reset, but it also has a nice jam in it, and it works so well. And again, it was 8 minutes, right? Like we really hit this 8, 9, 7, 8, 6
yeah,
minute
the
songs
micro
here.
jams.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of those. So
Yeah, I don't know what was going at the end at the end of that. It did seem like it just like dropped out of his mind, like he just forgot what he was doing or something. But
or he just wanted to get into About to Run or something.
it
Like
was
it's like
thinking too far ahead,
it's
and
sort of like what I feel like has kind of been a theme this tour and stuff with some of these songs is like he's thinking of the next song ahead of the song that he's in and doesn't let the song he's in really play out. It's sort of like, all right, let's just get to the next one. All right, let's get to the next one. And it wasn't because it was flubby or he had screwed up anything. It was just sort of like he wants to get to the next or he wants to do something else or like whatever. So it was just kind of, it was interesting. Yeah, it was kind of a weird
yeah.
outro of that one.
My only thing I have to say it when About to Run is played, I have to tell everybody that I love that fucking song. It's one of my favorite songs. Not that I'm one of the only ones. I mean, a lot of people love that song, but it's just I have to say it. I love that fucking song. It's great.
I agree. But it is what it is, right? Like it's rare that you get any more than what it is, and you usually don't get any less than what it is. So
I like Dave
yeah,
looking out for us. Only 20 likes with 80 people watching right now. Yeah, what the fuck?
hit those likes, hit
Hit
those
the like.
votes.
Oh, did we say that during housekeeping? Kev's gonna be so disappointed. We're supposed to remind you guys to like subscribe and like and ring the bell
And ring that bell, like Kev loves to say.
we nailed it.
We got it.
And then we got a nice little chalk dust to close out the set. I feel like it seemed like they almost wanted to close it out with About to Run because they did the slower trash can ending, where they're like really slow it down and start to build it. And then I think like Trey or somebody was just kind of like monitoring the energy. And it's like, is this enough? No, this isn't enough. We got to throw a chalk dust, one of those standard closers in there to wrap it up. I thought it was a
And I think
solid version though.
also the timing, like it just felt like everything was kind of a little like he just felt a little off, right? Because after the chalk dust, he's like, "See you guys tomorrow night." I mean Thursday. Well, tomorrow is Thursday, but you meant Friday. And then even at the end of Frankenstein, he's like, "Thank you, good night." And then Fishman's like, "We got time." He's like, "All right, let's do one more." So I felt like the whole sort of the end segment, like I think maybe he thought Piper, the Well, and the Howling should have gone longer than they did, and he ended up thinking, "Oh shit, they were so short. We do have more time." And so yes, that chalk dust was felt kind of thrown in there. The jam in the middle of it kind of threw back to last night's Ghost Jam. I thought how a lot of those songs last night kind of also sounded like that Ghost Jam. I thought the jam in the middle of Chalk Dust kind of threw back to that and had sort of that blissy high jam in it like last night.
But just a taste of it. It was
Right, because it didn't go too far, but it just kind of had it for a minute and then he brought back in. And while they were doing it, I kind of had a thought that like, since they're doing all these fucking around with slowing down songs, maybe Chalk Dust is one that would be fun to hear a slower version of, just because the way he sings it these days isn't nearly as fast as it used to be anyway. So it might be one of those that they could fuck around with, and like you play it slow somewhere in the set, right? Like slow, like a slow maze type thing in the set, and then as the encore you give us the Chalk Dust reprise fast. Do something like that. That could be a fun little thing to do. Right? Like that would be kind of
I'm getting triggered thinking about Chalk Dust reprises though, from what we were talking about earlier.
From what we were talking about. Charleston. I know.
God. I have PTSD from Charleston Night 3. Fuck that.
Which is even more reason why they need to bring it back to like get that taste out of everybody's mouth and give us one that we can be like, yes, it fit in a good show.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and okay, before we get in the encore, I'll just give like my overall take of this. I thought it was a really solid night, but it feels to me like the peak of tour has already passed us. And I hope that's wrong. I hope this weekend with 2 more shows, they come out and just, absolutely rage. And like, don't get me wrong, tonight was fantastic and a lot of fun. And I think all of the shows, honestly, for me have been good. But I feel like the Man Night 2 and then the first weekend of MSG were, that was like the what do you call that? The precipice or the peak of
The peak of it.
the
Yeah.
trajectory of tour. And now it feels like it's still hanging in there, but not quite where it had been. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the last two.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll be interesting to see this weekend what comes out this weekend, because there have been a couple bust outs here and there, and again the encores have been great throwbacks with a lot of them. Um, but it'll be interesting to see what they bring out this weekend and where we go from this weekend, and then even after this weekend, like obviously I feel like going into SPAC and then going into Dick's, everything's kind of back on the table, right? Like it's just sort of like here we go again. So hopefully we'll get some of these songs again with a little bit more polish on them, since it'll be 4 or 5 times they've played them once we get into those last sort of that second or third leg of tour, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean that's almost in my mind an entirely different tour run, right? It's like, I mean, technically it's considered part of summer tour, but that's its
But
own
it's like
beast.
weeks later. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of. All right. Yeah. I know. It's kind of like you get this break in between it and then, yeah. So we'll
Yeah, and
see.
late
But
July and early September are just at least for me, maybe I'm projecting, just completely different feels, right?
yeah.
Like one, like with Labor Day and going back to like school and work and everything versus like literally like I don't know. Uh
Midsummer, like the
exactly, midsummer, hot as
midsummer. Yeah.
shit, eating hot dogs and
Right. Yeah. No, totally. And I totally get that feeling. Although I will say, like, I think to your point, I think Man Night 2 is still top of the list for me. And then I don't know, we were talking about it earlier. I kind of put tonight's show as my favorite MSG show. I'm not saying it's the best one, but I'm saying it's my favorite just because of the way all the way through the set list was constructed. And tonight I felt like the second set matched the first set, which I just feel like the first 4 nights that the second sets haven't really matched up well with the first set, either the playing or the set list or whatever it is. Tonight, I felt like they were all synced up together. I felt like tonight was like a complete show, so to speak. And
I
it
think that
was
might
my
be a
favorite.
result of the first sets just being phenomenal then
Yeah, I agree.
versus the second sets not being good. Like I think the second sets have been decent, but a
Yeah,
couple of those first sets were just insanely
epic.
good.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
do
I
think
agree.
tonight was probably more consistent across the board and a really fun night. Like, and again, don't get me wrong, I think tonight was fantastic. I think a lot of these shows have been great. I'm just,
I hear
maybe it's fatigue too, right? We
you.
watch
Yeah.
every fucking show for an entire tour.
Exactly. Exactly. But
um,
let's get into this encore, because this is what I live for. This is right up my alley. It wasn't the cleanest Frankenstein, but you're not, I mean, again, we're not going to really get that in 4.0. I'm going to take it where I can get it, and I fucking love it. And seeing Paige on the guitar always gets me excited, and they're blasting it. It was just so fun, like awesome. And I'm sure those people on the floor right in front of them were having a blast, because you kind of see them looking at them and looking back, and it's such a fun song. It
yeah.
doesn't get enough love. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Anytime you see the guitar out is a great moment. I was wondering if like because he teased it in its ice, and I don't know if like this was something that was planned or beforehand and thought, or if Paige was like, I want to play this song, but I don't know how to bring it up to the band, so I'm just gonna tease it in a jam and then let them bring it up to me.
And then when we
Then
walk
like
off stage, I'm gonna be like, "Hey guys, for the encore, how about if we do Frankenstein?" And we'll be like, "Hey, that's a good idea."
yeah, exactly. Drop some hints, but it worked. And the foreshadow, I love when they do shit like that because it ties it all together full circle, and it makes it feel more fun. Um, kind of
Yeah.
crazy. Mike had his bass off. Trey was pulling it off. It looked like Paige he had the guitar, but he's like walking back. It didn't look like he was planning on playing. And then to
And
just
Fishman stood
decide,
up like he was ready to take his bow and was like, and then Trey and him kind of locked eyes, and he was kind of like, "Let's do it." Like, kind of one of those like, we got 15 minutes, like,
yeah,
like, are we sure?
and
And
I'm glad they did it because I mean Frankenstein was cool, very cool, but like it did feel very short and
very
like
short. Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of feel like I would have felt a little gypped maybe, like I hate leaving time on the clock. I know that's a silly thing and they don't always go to the clock, but like I hate when they leave 20 minutes or 15 minutes on the clock. It just give us something. I don't know.
Yeah, especially when there's not really any curfew necessarily, at that like 11:30, sure, but like you're so far from it and you're home anyway and everything's there and it's not like you're really getting kicked out or you're gonna, whatever. So it just kind of felt like this is it. Like, okay, I like going out on Frankenstein, but let's do something more. But then that slave was only 8 minutes and they still left some time on the clock. And I felt like that slave could have at least gone 10 to 12 and had a little bit more in that jam. It just felt, again, a little compact, a little bit rushed, so to speak, almost like even towards the end of it when he came back into it, it felt a little rushed and he didn't
A little
quite nail
early
the
almost.
ending again. Yeah, it did. It felt a little bit like that. So it just, again, that whole thing with him, like, saying the see you tomorrow night, I mean Thursday, but whatever, and then going into the encore just kind of felt a little bit like his head wasn't quite all in the game at the end there, which was funny.
You know how many Wooks are going to be wandering around New York City tomorrow looking for the secret concert? They'll be like, Trey told us there's a Thursday show. They're just fucking scouring the city looking for it.
He's sitting in somewhere. I know it. Like,
oh, that's great. All right. Well, appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We got 2 more of these. And then tomorrow night, we also have the Taper Choice interview. And then we'll be back for SPAC and Dicks and, everything else. I can't find the outro music. Oh, here it is.
There it is. Thanks for
Professionals Guide. Like and subscribe.
That's how we do it. Like and subscribe. See y'all.
Bye.